Hey, hi, howdy, everybody. Welcome to Matt and Cheryl's Gen Excellent playlist. I'm Matt,
I'm Cheryl.
and this is episode number 7. We have reached our bicentennial year, our country's 200th birthday, 1976. In that year, I was first grade going on second. Cheryl, I guess you were kinder to first, right, in 76? Our birthdays are very close together, but there was a generational line there where I was a
Yeah,
young.
you made the cutoff and I didn't.
You were an old lady in your class, and I was a young pup in my class of 1987. Playlist is growing exponentially. We add more songs with each passing year. We're going to pick 8 from the year 1976, so we'll be taking our time over a couple episodes to get through it all. Cheryl and I will talk about our favorite albums from the year and stuff we've been listening to recently that we've been enjoying. And actually, I got to talk about some I watched last night, just getting prepared for 1976, Cheryl. Olivia Newton-John released an album that year called Come On Over. Not one of her best known albums. Didn't have any huge hits off of it, but I really like this a lot. Now, we've talked in previous episodes. I'm a geek CD collector. I particularly look for early foreign pressings of compact discs. Olivia is very collectible on CD. Just about all of her albums from the 70s and early 80s are long out of print. The studio albums, most of them were originally released in foreign pressings in the early 80s and go for collector prices. So I'm always on the lookout for Olivia stuff. And I found the Come On Over CD a while back. I remember my sister had the 45 of the song Come On Over, and she liked it a lot. I don't recall listening to it a ton when I was a kid, but I would have heard it and enjoyed it. But then going back as a 40 something, 50 something, listening to that song, oh my God, what a great song it's a huge epic country ballad. It's a Barry Gibb composition, and you can find Bee Gees versions of that. They did it live in fairly similar arrangement. Just this big emotional ballad with a huge chorus. Just a knockout record. It wasn't a big hit for her, but that album I found very interesting. She's all over the map stylistically on this record. I really like it a lot. I think she is underrated as a vocalist performer. In fact, we lost a music legend here this week with the passing of Jerry Lee Lewis, really the last of the original, rock and roll pioneer characters, Elvis, Little Richard, Chuck Berry. Jerry Lee was kind of the last one standing. I think at the time, if you had placed odds on who would be the longest lived of that group, I don't think Jerry Lee would have gotten the best odds. Certainly,
No,
maybe
I
the
don't think
worst.
so.
Maybe
Yeah,
the
I
worst.
know. And honestly, I hadn't realized that he hadn't already passed away. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was surprised when I saw that.
he was 87, 88 years
He was
old.
87.
So he's gone. But Olivia passed fairly recently, within the last, 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
I lose track of
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I was preoccupied at the time, or my attention was elsewhere and I wasn't really tuned into the media and the coverage of her death. It seems to me that her passing was pretty quiet, not a lot reported about. I mean, this lady was one of the biggest stars in the world during our youth. In the late
Huge.
70s, early 80s,
Mm-hmm.
massive, massive star and a huge talent. And her career got derailed by illness. She had breast cancer. And
Mm-hmm.
really thinking back, that's the first time I can recall like a current popular artist, someone who is still kind of on top of their game or near their peak, having cancer and having that be a big public thing. That's the first
Mm-hmm.
time I can remember that happening. She
Well,
was,
when did she have breast cancer when she was still recording?
oh
Like
yeah,
in
yeah,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
because in the 80s? Ah, okay. Because I believe that's what she passed away from. I mean,
yeah.
she
It
had,
eventually, yeah, she lived
yeah.
quite a long time after the initial diagnosis, but
Okay.
that
Yeah.
kind of halted her career momentum, and it was never the same
Hmm.
after that. But
Mhm.
but I mean, you go back to the early '80s, Physical,
Physical? That was huge.
number one for 10 consecutive weeks on Billboard, one of
Yeah.
the biggest hit singles ever. And then, of course, the Grease, the movie and the soundtrack, the Xanadu,
Yep.
the song I mean, just huge star, beautiful
Magic.
lady. Um,
Mhm. W
I don't feel like she's getting her due.
I
She
think
what?
the biggest thing that came out that I saw was John Travolta's words and kind of memorializing her. Which makes sense because I think she is most well known for Grease at this point.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
That's the one thing that has continued to be popular and is still part of our pop culture now. So really, that was really the only thing that I saw. Was I did see that John Travolta had posted, a tribute to her. I didn't really see much else.
Yeah, you go back, and I think people forget how talented she was. She was an elite level vocalist,
Yeah.
very, very talented vocalist, incredible upper range and control and vibrato, and just a beautiful singer and a gorgeous lady. I mean, just a beautiful woman. So I found this video on YouTube, knocked me out last night. It's all live. I don't know the year it came out. It must have been right around 76, 77 at the latest. And it's from a TV special. I believe Olivia was the feature of the TV special. But it was a medley, and it goes on for almost 20 full minutes. It's all live. There's a pit orchestra and band, full band, orchestra, strings, horns, whole bit. It's all done live. There's 3 performers, and they do about, 10 total songs, and it's a continuous medley. And they switch back and forth between the performers. But now we talked about in the last episode those crazy TV clips of Billy Swan where it looks like it all just fell together at the last minute and no thought put into it all. This was clearly planned out and beautifully executed. So it's Olivia starting out, and down on the floor, it's Abba, the 4 members of Abba, and Andy Gibb. Okay. So Olivia starts off, I can't remember which song started it off. Unfortunately, nothing from Come On Over. That's what I was hoping for. But she sings a couple, and then they transition to Abba, and they kind of Livy kind of comes down the stairs. Abba kind of makes their way up to the top. It's all flows, and they're live. It's live. I mean, you don't see a lot of live
Which is
Abba
surprising.
stuff. Right,
yeah.
right. So you got Benny at his piano, Bjorn's playing an acoustic, and then Agnetha and Frida are doing their thing vocally. And they start off doing Dancing Queen. I think they do like an a cappella opening to Take a Chance on Me, where the guys are kind of doing the bass vocals, take a chance, take a chance, take a chance. And they're, if you change your mind, it's all a cappella for the first couple of verses. And then the band kicks in. Really well done. And then eventually transitions to Andy Gibb. And I don't know. So I lose track. We've talked so much, and we've done some episodes that we've, kind of test runs and trash. I can't remember what's gone out and what hasn't. If we've talked about Andy Gibb at all.
We haven't talked about Andy Gibb. No.
Fascinating to me, this guy.
Yeah.
He was great. He really was. Very talented.
Shadow dancing.
Now, okay, he does shadow dancing with a live band accompaniment. And it is a killer funk arrangement and performance by this band behind him. And Andy Gibb was a very, very good singer. Very good singer. And probably the best looking of the Gibb brothers, the youngest. He was the baby brother. And vocally, he's right there with Barry. So he does his numbers. He knocks it out of the park. Very charismatic performer. And so they just keep going back and forth, back to Olivia, back to Abba. And it just goes continuously for 20 minutes and about 10 songs. And it's just a knockout. I mean, it's an incredible performance by all of them. What a gem. Definitely look for that on YouTube. So anyway, that's just some of the fun Cheryl and I have preparing for these podcasts, is just discovering this incredible treasure trove of stuff on YouTube. That's out there for all to see. So anyway, no Andy Gibb in 1976 for us. Olivia Newton-John, is she going to make the cut? I don't know. She's coming on strong in my estimation for personal favorites of mine. But one song we're going to start with, it's called December 1963, in parentheses, Oh, What a Night. I think most people know this one from our generation and have a fondness for it. It's one of those lighthearted hits that really fits the tone of the era. The Four Seasons, they're well into their career at this point. Their days as a chart-topping act. In the past at this point, although they started having some hits with the early disco sound. In 75, I think you had Frankie Valli had two hits with Swearing to God. Now, I'm getting things jumbled in my mind. He had a hit with My Eyes Adored You a few years before that. Who Loves You? Who loves you, pretty baby?
Oh
Who's
yeah, that
gonna
was a big
take?
song.
Yep, yeah, and that was a
Yeah.
solo hit for Frankie the year before. Four Seasons. Frankie Valli, of course, is the face of the Four Seasons with the high falsetto, the little tiny guy with the high falsetto voice. He's still a part of it. And you got other band members at this point, some younger guys coming in, still Italian dudes. The lead vocalist on the song December 1963 is the drummer. His name is Jerry Polci. And then you got three vocal turns on this song. Frankie Valli does the memorable bridge where he hits, he's in his falsetto range. And then there's two lines, which, I mean, just critical to the song. They're sung by the bassist. His last name is Ciccone. Very Italian group, the Four Seasons. They were like the East Coast Beach Boys. So you had the Beach Boys with the surf sound, but both bands are about vocal harmonies. It's vocal harmony music. So the Four Seasons were the East Coast hit makers. The Beach Boys were the West Coast, and they're both having hits around the same time, early 60s, predating the Beatles, starting like 62, 63, and then continuing to have hits through the British invasion. Four Seasons, their hits kind of tailed off toward the end of the decade. They put out one album that's now considered a cult classic called the Genuine Imitation Life Gazette. It's kind of a concept album. Came out in 1969. I actually found a copy of that at the Goodwill store in Battleground, Washington. I haven't listened to it yet, but that was a fun find. That's considered a kind of a psychedelic era cult classic now. And then, in the early 70s, now they're becoming more of a nostalgia act, but Frankie Valli's embracing the current sounds, having hits with the disco sound. And then there's very much a disco feel to this track as well, certainly with the drums. And as you're going to see with a couple of songs from this year that we picked, you get hooked in with a keyboard riff at the beginning. And this was the anchor of the song. Gaudio talks about, he came up with this da 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 da, this keyboard riff, piano riff. And they worked up a track. They loved the track. They had, funky drums, kind of a disco feel with the drums. So they had this great track. Everybody loved it. Oh, we're definitely going to do something with this. So Gaudio writes the lyrics. Now, initially, the lyrics are not 1963. It's 1933. And the song, the lyrics concern the repeal of prohibition. So it's I think it's the date of the repeal of prohibition in 1933. And so he talks about how I've never heard the song in its initial form. I don't know if there's even a recording of it with the original lyrics, because Bob Gaudio even jokes about it. He says, yeah, it was stuff like flappers flipping on the floors. So he presents the song to the band. They've got this great track. Everybody loves the track. They're thinking, oh, we might have a hit on our hands. So here's the lyrics. And they're all like, dude, no. We're not singing this.
Yeah.
No. Go back to the drawing board. There's no freaking way we're singing this song. It's stupid. And he was a little pissed off about it, but he went back, and his, I don't know if it was his wife or his girlfriend at the time. They're a married couple, I think, even to this day. Her name is Judy Parker. She'd heard the track, and she got inspired and wrote her own lyrics to it. And she just kind of thought to herself, the idea about a guy having sex for the first time is interesting. I'm going to write a song about it. So everybody knows what this song's about. It's a guy getting laid for the first time. That's what the song's about. It's pretty open. But knowing that a woman wrote the lyrics, it puts a really interesting spin on it. Certainly when you hear the line that Frankie Valli sings in the bridge. Now, do you remember how it goes? Oh, I got a funny feeling when she walked in the room. And as I recall, it ended much too soon. Oh, what do you think that means? What do you think he's singing about there? Would a guy have written that line? Would a guy have written that? Would
never.
Rod Stewart have sung that line?
No way.
Little foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nostalgic song for boomers because, my parents, let's see, in 63, they would have been in high school. It's December 1963. It recalls this innocent age because I remember the next month is when the Beatles appeared on Ed Sullivan and music changed.
Everything changed.
Irrevocably. So it's hearkening back to that pre-Beatles, more innocent era, although it's post the Kennedy assassination, which was kind of the beginning of the end of the innocence in American culture. It's just a catchy, fun, danceable track, and it's great party music, and it certainly belongs on our playlist for 1976. Big hit, number one early in that year.
Yeah.
Actually released at the end of 75. I think it came out like first week of December 1975. It hit the top of the charts early in 1976. And this is still a song you hear all the time. Oldies radio. It's a fun song. And it was the last big hit for the Four Seasons. That was their swan
Yeah,
song.
I think Frankie Valli went on to do Grease not long after that, right? To have a hit with.
Oh, Frankie Valli. You're right. He would still have a couple of solo hits. I mentioned the three vocalists too. So you got Pulci, the drummer, who's pretty funky, solid drummer. There's a live midnight special performance clip of them doing the song. Frankie Valli sings that memorable bridge, and then you got the key line about the actual act sung by the bassist Ciccone. I felt a rush like a rolling ball of thunder, spinning my head around and taking my body under. Now, when you get the musical backing, that is straight up, that's disco right there. I mean, that is right in the heart of the hot sound of the era. And they were on the pulse of what was happening then, and they nailed it with that song, musically and lyrically, I think. Now, we mentioned Rod Stewart because Rod Stewart also had a big hit in 76. And this big hit is also about somebody losing their virginity, except this time it's not the dude. Rod Stewart.
No.
Rod Stewart, certainly no virgin. He's got a lovely French lady, and he's going to deflower her in his home. This song was a huge hit for him. So December 63, at the beginning of the year, 76, this is at the end of the bicentennial year. It was the last number one song in the United States, and it's called Tonight's the Night. It's off the Night on the Town album. You listen to the Four Seasons song, especially now that you know a woman wrote the lyrics, and it's cute, it's nostalgic, it's fun. Rod Stewart wrote Tonight's the Night, okay? You listen to that, it's a little cringy. It's a little cringy.
A serious ick factor there.
Especially when you watch Rod
in
the vintage performance clips of the era.
Yeah, but there's actually like a video clip too, that they made for the song with him, and maybe in the video I think it might be his girlfriend.
It's Britt Eklund.
Okay,
Britt Eklund.
And
she's
Swedish.
The
one that does the French at the end of the song.
The sexy French.
Sexy French.
Yeah.
Talk. Yeah.
I haven't gone so far as to translate what it is she's saying to see if
I don't want to know.
To see if it's as cringy as the rest of the lyrics.
I don't know, but that was actually
Spread your wings and let me come inside, says Rod.
And it almost maybe did get banned. Well, because of just the tone of the song and the meaning of the song behind the song. It was so obvious. There's nothing subtle about it.
Nothing subtle about it.
But yeah, I think watching the video too just adds a whole other dimension of do we really want to see this?
when you hear the song and it's period arrangement, I just get this visual picture of just a prototypical 70s kind of pad, shag carpet, dark wood, maybe some red lighting, and he's
in front of the fire and
pour yourself a long drink, he says, relax, nobody's gonna stop us now. And then to see Rod's mannerisms on stage at this point are just so hard to watch, because I really am a big fan of his early 70s, late 60s stuff, starting with the Jeff Beck Group in the late 60s, and then the Faces and his concurrent solo albums from 70 to 74. Great music. And it's like a combination of soul music. That's really his inspiration, was black soul artists, Sam Cooke in particular. And Rod, considered to be one of the great, white soul singers of that era in the 60s and early 70s.
Yeah.
Maggie May was his breakout, huge worldwide hit. That's the song I never get tired of hearing. One of my favorites. The album it was on, Every Picture Tells a Story. Both Maggie May and the album were number one in the U.S. and the U.K. simultaneously. So Rod becomes this huge star. he's playing in the Faces, which was like considered the ultimate lads band. These four kind of alpha males. Initially, the band was the Small Faces. You had Steve Marriott was the lead singer and guitarist, Ronnie Lane the bassist, Ian McLagan keys, Kenny Jones drums. They were the Small Faces because they were a bunch of tiny little guys, really short, like 5'4" to 5'6", all of them. And then Marriott leaves to form Humble Pie. They bring in Rod Stewart and Rod Wood simultaneously. They certainly fit the vibe of the band musically and attitudinally, but physically, no.
They were tall.
Rod and Ron were tall, athletic guys, and these guys were a bunch of shorties, so they changed the name to just Faces. But they arguably got even better in that arrangement. You might argue with me on that.
I might, yeah.
But I love the Faces. Great live band, and we're going to talk about another great live band here shortly. But anyway, live band, but not exactly the tightest group. They were tight in the sense that they were drunk, if you want to use that meaning of tight. They definitely had a party on stage. But, Rod became this huge solo star, and he was still continuing on the Face, but you could see the resentments kind of growing as Rod is spending more and more time on his solo career and kind of pivoting to this next era where he's no longer hanging with the boys so much. He's embraced this jet set lifestyle. I mean, here's a guy who was a notorious womanizer. Now he's linked to Britt Ekland, who was a famous worldwide model and actress, Swedish gal, I think, raised in England, schooled in England, kind of upper class type. And now he's embraced this jet set lifestyle. He's left England. He's moved to the United States. He's living in LA, very much embracing the stardom and the riches that he's attained. He's, Rod and Britt were like one of the couples, the paparazzi were
power couples.
Yeah, exactly. Constantly, showing up in magazines and the critics turned on him. Rod was a great songwriter and he wrote a lot of his hit songs in the early part of the decade. But as the decade wore on, he's writing less and less. He's using outside writers more and more. He's ditched the Faces. Now, Night on the Town is his second album that he recorded with a bunch of studio musicians. Still putting out great records. I mean, still having big hit singles, but the critics really turned on him. And you could kind of see why. Just the way he was presenting himself.
The way he presented himself.
Very clownish. Very clownish. I mean, his stage mannerisms, like the preening and the posing and the
shirtless,
shaking his the tight clothes, the tight pants, and shaking his butt, and it's just kind of hard to watch, really, in retrospect.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe at the time that was considered cool for a guy to really be, feeling his sexy. Rod certainly was. I've never looked at Rod and say, "Oh, there's a good-looking dude."
That's the thing that's a little baffling to me too. He's not. It's all about attitude, I guess.
I mean, he's got a nose like mine. He's got kind of a funny looking face. I mean, he's an athletic, fit guy, and he's a very confident man. There's no doubting that. Very much an alpha male, and he always had that cheekiness. I mean, he's just lovable in that way. That even when he's at the height of his fame and this jet set guy, turning with Britt Ekland, when you hear him talk, he's always just chirpy and down to earth, always quick with a zinger or a one-liner or a self-deprecating humor. So I think that's always been appreciated about him. But critically, he was never viewed the same way after that. And he never really went back to that sound that he was so beloved for. Once he left it was pretty much gone.
And I really hadn't listened to this album before. It has some really good songs on it.
Oh, yeah. Look at who plays on it. You want to talk about heavyweights, and he recorded it in Muscle Shoals with the Swampers. So you got the Swampers rhythm section, David Hood on the bass, late Roger Hawkins on drums, and Barry Beckett on the keys, and a bunch of other big-time session guys.
And he did a cover of Cat Stevens' First Cuts the Deepest, which
very
became...
good. Yeah.
A kind of a radio staple for him.
Oh, and that was a concert staple for the rest. I mean, he probably still plays that most every concert.
The song that really stood out to me, though, and I've never heard this song, was The Killing of Georgie.
Yeah. Kind of ahead of its time.
And apparently it peaked at number 2 on the UK charts.
Yeah.
I'd never heard it. It was a mostly true story. He said he embellished a little bit to make it more interesting as a song, but it was about a a gay friend that he knew back in the Small Faces days, was shunned by his family, moved to New York City, became a popular socialite, attends a opening night on a Broadway show, leaves early, and is attacked by a gang and killed. It's very moving and ahead of its time, really. I mean,
yeah, I think it's interesting about Rod too. In that time period, glam rock was big, more so in England than the United States. But that really affected the sound of the music and the fashion, and a lot of the attitudes about sex as well. A lot of big stars embraced androgyny, and Rod kind of dabbled with that a little bit. Mick Jagger certainly did. And there's been rumors over the years about Rod's true sexuality.
yeah,
Is he bisexual? I mean, if I had to wager, I'd say he probably had some dalliances.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, he's just a very sexual
He's
guy.
a sexual guy, yeah.
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 I'd say that's probably true. I don't know. He's been coy about it.
Yeah.
Mick the same way. I think
Right.
Mick, yeah.
David Bowie.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I just found this to be a very touching song and moving. And actually, the second part of this song, it sort of goes into like a slower, after the storytelling is over, that sounds exactly like Don't Let Me Down by the Beatles. It's the exact same guitar line. Georgie, stay. And there's a quote where John Lennon says, I guess the lawyers didn't catch it. Because it's so close. I mean, it's undeniable. But
yeah, and that's all on side one of the record. So tonight's night leads it off. You got First Cut is the Deepest and Killing a Georgie. That's a good record. It is.
Mhm.
And he continued to make good records throughout. I even like, I think the nadir of his critical view was Blondes Have More Fun and Do You Think I'm Sexy at the end of the decade. I love that song. I mean, I don't think I loved it at the time so much, even though I liked disco. I was a fan of disco. I don't think I cared for that song all that much. And later on, retrospectively, I really enjoy it a lot. I think it's a great record. But I think Rod continued to make good, and I've been listening to his Storyteller box set, primarily listening to disc one at this point, but for a long period of time, he continued to put out good records, good singles into the 80s. Young Turks, that was a classic.
Yeah.
That may make the playlist for the early 80s. I still have that 45. But as far as Tonight's the Night is concerned, it's on our playlist because of its hit status. It wouldn't have been a choice for me. It certainly would have been a choice for you. Other Rod Stewart songs, yeah, maybe. It's on there because it was a huge hit. It was number one for eight straight weeks on Billboard in the USA. I think 5 straight weeks in Canada. Big hit all over the world. And actually, it was the biggest selling song in the U.S. in 1977. So even though I think 7 of its 8 weeks at number one were in 76 at the end of the year, it continued to sell well into 77, enough so that it was the top-selling single of that year as well. I mean, you tend to forget how big Rod was in this period of time. This was his second album of his true solo period. Now, true solo meaning not concurrently playing with the Faces. He'd broken up. Smiler was his last solo record while he was still linked with the Faces. And there's still great stuff. That album didn't get good reviews at the time. I think that's probably, I'm not ready to say that album's due for reassessment. I haven't listened to the whole album enough to comment about that. But there's one track in particular that I absolutely love. It's called Farewell. Great. I mean, up there with his best songs. And then the album starts with just a killer rockin' version of Chuck Berry's Sweet Hitchhiker. The critics didn't love it because it was almost like too much of the same thing. Time for you to show us something new. You're just retreading here. But he found a formula that worked. I mean, it was, a combination of soul music and folk music. You got the soulful, raspy vocals of Rod Stewart, and you've got a lot of acoustic backing, like a lot of mandolin, a lot of fiddle. Rick Gretsch, the fiddle player on Farewell, by the way, who was the bass player in Family and Blind Faith, and Traffic's Low Spark High Heel Boys album. Anyhow, there was another Tonight's the Night the previous year that Cheryl and I much prefer. That was Neil Young's Tonight's the Night.
Oh yeah,
the song and the album much prefer. Even though the album was actually recorded in '73. But yeah, so Tonight's
when you were researching this song, you ran into
the TV special,
BBC TV special called "The Night on the Town."
So now this TV special, so we cracked on Billy Swan and the ridiculous TV clips. We both enjoyed the James Paul McCartney TV special from 73 or 74. I'm forgetting 73. Yeah. I thought that was really well made. Rod's TV special. Not a whole lot of budget here, apparently. Not a whole lot of thought or planning.
Not a lot of thought put into this. Yeah. It's like, let's just pop Rod up on stage, take off his shirt, and let him just do his thing.
No band behind him. No band. Just him up there. Kind of his new image, his new sexy solo image. Writhing around on stage, shaking his tushy, singing his sexy songs. Hard to watch. Yeah. Even though the songs are still good. Hard to watch Rod do this. Just not a lot of effort put into the set or the presentation. And the special itself is pretty similar to the McCartney special, where it's pretty much just the music. It's just, you're going from one music performance to another. Not a lot of, there's no skits or talking bits. It's just going from one number to the next. But Rod's doing his thing and we're wincing. And then he had 2 other musical guests on his special. The first musical guest comes on, and all of a sudden, things go about 3 levels higher.
Yeah.
And I'll let you take it from here, Cheryl.
The next band that's on this Rod Stewart special is Thin Lizzy. A lot of people know the song The Boys Are Back in Town. Huge hit for them. Still a radio staple. Really, their biggest hit, definitely in America. Thin Lizzy had been around for a while now. They had a hit in the early 70s with a rework of a traditional Irish song, Whiskey in the Jar.
Hit in England, not in the U.S.
Yes. After that, they were kind of, they were still recording albums. They had this dual guitar, this twin harmonic guitar sound.
They changed some personnel, the guitarists, right? From that initial hit.
Yes, from that initial hit, the original guitarist ended up quitting the band. He didn't really like the direction they were going in. They brought on 2 new guitarists, Scott Gorham, who was an American, and Brian Robertson. And these 2 guys, I mean, they are just like screaming guitar solos.
Both hot players.
Yeah.
Which guy is which? So you got the guy with the long straight hair, and then the guy with the shorter.
That's Scott Gorham.
So Scott Gorham, the American, is the one with the long hair.
Straight hair. Yeah, kind of looks like Timothy B. Schmidt.
Yes. Yeah, he does. He does.
Yeah. So anyway, these 2 guitars together, they kind of like accidentally sort of came up with this harmonic sound. They're playing, simultaneously playing oftentimes like the same thing together. Like, that's where you get the twin guitar.
Yep.
Which became really popular later with bands Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, Scorpions. But Thin Lizzy had a lot more in common with songwriting anyway, with Phil Lynott songwriting, with Bruce Springsteen, Van Morrison, Dylan. Much more of a storyteller, creating these almost like novels in his songs.
Cinematic, a lot of evocative imagery and character development.
Yeah. Right. Which is really apparent in The Boys Are Back in Town. I mean, he's telling a story and he's very specific. It's not just like he's talking about them at a diner. It's at Dino's, it's got a name even.
At Dino's Bar and Grill.
Yeah, Dino's Bar and Grill. Very American, really. Like he was really going with this very Americanized imagery. So anyway, the sound, but they did have a really hard sound to them. Some of it of like an Iron Maiden.
Yeah, they're heavy. Very
Heaviness. So anyway, the album that this is from, Jailbreak, which is my album pick for 1976, starts out with the song Jailbreak, which was also a hit for them. Became a radio staple. You hear it on classic rock radio all the time.
Yeah, FM hit.
I love the beginning of this album. It just starts out with dun, and then it goes into this dun 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 dun.
Great riff.
Very cool riff.
Groovy.
Just groovy, but just like so crisp and clean, but still really heavy. And then Phil Lynott's vocals come in, and he is, I think, one of the best rock vocalists ever. Very underrated in vocals.
Incredibly charismatic.
Songwriting.
Yeah. Charismatic frontman, for sure. Very
extremely charismatic frontman. Yes. Big, tall, thin guy. Big hair.
Big head.
big, yeah. He's
He's
got that guitar.
unusual
He has
looking guy. He's a mixed race guy, but he's got kind of this big head, long kind of horse face. He had the kind of pencil
very
mustache,
long, pointy
huge
chin.
frizzy afro
Hmm.
hair. Uh, Unusual looking guy, but the more you look at him and the way he carries himself, you could see why. It's just incredible charisma. And then,
He's very
yeah,
expressive and dynamic. Yeah,
yes,
like you can't keep your eyes off him, and he has that rock and roll stance with the
tough
bass
guy.
slung low, and yeah, and a lot of his songs come from that viewpoint too, of that kind of like tough in the
Yep,
streets, and which that's where that similarity to Springsteen comes into, where it's very gritty. But then he also has lighter side too.
very
He's got like,
romantic. Hmm.
yes. Later they had the hit "Dancing in the Moonlight," which a lot of people probably don't even realize is Thin Lizzy, because it's
Hmm.
a bit of a departure from their real hard
Not
rock sound.
not to be confused with the AM radio hit by Harvest in '72. Another good. I think people get those confused sometimes. It's
I know, it's funny
yeah,
that there were two songs with the same title that were both hits, very different songs.
yeah.
So anyway, this Jailbreak album, every song is great on this album, all the way through. Now, a lot of people probably bought the album when it came out, or maybe even later, because of the song "The Boys Are Back in Town." Honestly, my least favorite song on the album.
No kidding. It's,
Yes.
yeah, that's saying something because that's a great classic song.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I don't like the
Yeah,
song, but every song is great on this album. There is another song that did become a radio staple for them too, "Cowboy Song."
yeah.
A lot of people probably have heard that. They used to play it a lot on KZOK and the classic rock stations. Now, this Rod Stewart special, they do a song called "Emerald" from the Jailbreak album. That's the song where it's mind blowing that they're actually performing this live.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Because when you see the guitars just in complete unison, and we're not talking simple guitar
no.
passages or solos here. We're talking some real complicated, and they're just amazing. They're one of those bands that had some setbacks that really kind of derailed their career. After Boys Are Back in Town was a big hit, they embarked on a tour of America. Phil Lynott contracted hepatitis,
Had
was
a
very sick,
fairly indulgent lifestyle.
very indulgent lifestyle, and they had to cancel the tour. So now all of a sudden their momentum is just completely derailed, and they go back in the studio, they record another album. That's where the Bad Reputation has "Dancing in the Moonlight," another hit for them. At this point, band members are starting to feel the strain of Phil Lynott's excessive lifestyle.
And he's not the
And
only
Scott,
one. Yeah, he's not the only one that succumbed.
exactly. Scott Gorham becomes a heroin addict as well, along with Phil Lynott. And really, it's a sad story from there on out. They did continue to record albums. Gary Moore joined the band, pretty well known blues guitarist. Had a lot of solo albums out
Considered
later on in his career.
one of the great technical guitar players of all time. He's gone now too. Died in the last few years, but
Mm-hmm. The band did continue to record albums. Some great albums, really. The album they recorded with Gary Moore, "Black Rose," one of my favorite albums of theirs. So anyway, from then they just started to deteriorate, and actually Phil Lynott died in 1986 at the age of 36.
multiple organ failure. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
years of hard drug use.
He did put out a few solo albums. He actually worked with Midge Ure.
Put out a very interesting single with Midge Ure.
Yeah.
In a kind of synth pop vein.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Midge Ure, actually, he came on and played with Thin Lizzy. He toured.
Attack.
It's
That's
so 80s.
Yeah, very 80s, very synthy, but something about it.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His voice is just so great. I mean, when we say he's a great singer, well, he doesn't have huge vocal range. He just it's voices of distinction. I'm going to use that phrase a lot in these podcasts because getting to this stage of my life, I really start to appreciate what I call vocals of distinction, where you hear a voice and you instantly know who it is within a couple of notes. Yeah. So he didn't have this great vocal range, but he had the timbre of his voice, the tone of it, and then his his lyricism, as you mentioned,
Yes.
the and the romanticism, just very
Mm-hmm.
compelling vocalist, and you recognize that voice right away. I mean, it doesn't seem like it would fit this heavy, dual lead guitar attack, but it does. I mean, it's a great combination that they've put together, and
Yeah,
it
it's like
works
this
beautifully.
combination of this sort of like masculine bravado
Yes,
with very
very masculine.
detailed
Yeah.
storytelling, and it's an interesting combination, but it really works because they have the chops. I mean, this band.
And again, getting back to that special, I'm like you. I'm watching this. I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. They're playing live. I'm like, wait a minute, this can't be live. This
Yeah.
They are so locked in. It is incredible how tight they are. And
Yeah.
especially now, I mean, it's one thing the two guitarists, they do unison playing, they do harmonic playing, they trade off on fiery solos. So you got all those different approaches with the two guitars. Then you've got the solid rhythmic backing with Phil and I don't know the drummer's name. He's a good drummer. Um,
Yeah, yeah, Brian Downey. And he actually was with the band from the very beginning to the very end. He was the one constant band member
is that
with Phil
right? Yeah.
Lynott.
No, he's
Mm-hmm.
excellent drummer. And then Phil is locked in. Now, did you know this? He'd only started playing the bass a couple of years before. Now, when they started out, he was not a musician. He was
Mm-hmm.
just a frontman vocalist, and he kind of just picked up the bass and learned it on the fly. And he's got kind of an unusual bass style too, where
Yeah.
he's using the
He's like
plectrum.
strumming more.
Yeah,
He's
he's
using a
strumming
pick.
with the
He's
plectrum.
in it.
Yeah,
Yeah. He does do some more complicated fingering,
yeah.
but his style is definitely, it's just like a thundering sound.
And the way he wielded that bass, you talked
Yes.
about his rock stances. When he
Yeah.
kind of gets to that crouch and it's like a machine gun that he's strafing the crowd
Yep.
with. There's a classic photo. I think it's on the Live and Dangerous album, I believe, where he's in that pose.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the, it's so cool.
Which Live and Dangerous came out in between this run of their albums after Jailbreak. One of the greatest live albums ever recorded.
Well,
This band is so hot.
I knew about their live reputation. I knew that was considered to be a great live, and I'd heard some of it before. I'd seen live clips, but I never really sat down there and just kind of focused watching them for an extended period of time. And like you, I'm just blown away at how good they are live. So I had to find some more, and there's tons of stuff on YouTube, tons of live stuff from that era. And I found another concert from the year before where they were playing in their hometown of Dublin. They're the real deal, man. I mean, they are so tight, and the songs are so good. I mean, it's one after the other.
The songs are so good. That's what I'm saying. This Jailbreak album, I mean, like I said, people are familiar with the songs they've heard, and they're great songs too, and that's enough to draw you in and want to listen to this album. But as you go through and every song, you're just like, wow, another great song.
Yeah.
And this is my pick for album for 1976. I think that it's one of those albums that is not known enough and heard enough, especially now.
Certainly their best known album, their best selling album in the United States. And the most recognizable songs for American listeners would mostly be on the Jailbreak album with the title track, Boys Are Back in Town, a Cowboy song, all getting FM play, and then classic rock radio play. I don't really listen to classic rock radio much anymore. I hate the format, what it's become. So I don't even know if these songs get played anymore, other than, Boys Are Back in Town. That's always going to be there. I think that's just a staple classic rock. I don't know if any other Thin Lizzy, maybe Jailbreak occasionally still gets played on the radio.
Classic rock now, it makes me feel really old when I listen to classic rock stations because they're playing 90s.
Yeah, 80s. It's more 80s rock. Yeah, it's more 80s and 90s. Yeah. Classic rock for us will always be Rubber Soul,
60s, 70s.
Rubber Soul Beatles through the late 70s AOR boom. That's really the classic rock era, I think.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about the AOR, album oriented rock, and then you get into the MOR, which is
middle of the road.
Middle of the road.
So I said my dad's a radio man. So I grew up in a small town, Chehalis, Washington. Back when I was a young kid, you had the AM station was what you call full service AM station. So yeah, they did news, they did local sports, they did special programs. But when they weren't doing those things, they played music, and the music was MOR, middle of the road music, stuff your grandparents would listen to, like the crooners, like Peggy Lee and Tony Bennett, that kind of Frank Sinatra, that kind of music. And then, the more modern stuff in that vein. So like the Carpenters,
Mm-hmm.
Tony Orlando and Don certainly would have been played on those formats. So that's kind of what I grew up around, hearing a lot of that middle of
Captain
the
and
road.
Tennille.
Yeah, Captain and Tennille, sure. And then,
But this kind of leads us to
and then you had
our next.
soft rock was another similar format, but soft rock was more modern artists, more coming out of the singer-songwriter mold, where it was like mellow rock music rather than this, throwback 40s, 50s era hit parade pop style. The soft rock format became really big during this time period. I think the quintessential soft rock song for me would be Summer Breeze by Seals and Crofts.
Oh,
that to me is like the ultimate example, great
or
example
I'd really
of that
like
genre.
to See You Tonight
by
England Dan and John Ford Coley.
Not as big a fan of that one necessarily, but you could.
So where do you think that our next song for 1976 would fall?
Our next song. Oh, are you talking about Chicago?
Mm-hmm.
Or which song? Okay, that's kind of straddles the soft rock MOR line. It would be played in both formats. Probably part of the reason why it was such a huge hit. Is it straddled formats. So here's Chicago, a band that started out very much in the freeform FM era. They could play heavy, but they brought in horns, so they had a soul feel. They had the hot horn section. All the players were strong players. So you had a genuine guitar hero in Terry Kath, who none other than Jimi Hendrix said he's one of the best cats out there. Chicago kind of broke in '69 with their first Chicago Transit Authority toward the end of that year. They were having hits right from the get-go, too. I mean, they had the smarts to take some tracks. Their albums had a lot of long tracks, but they edited them down into singles, and they had hits on AM radio right off the bat. But by '76, you're starting to feel a change in the weather with Chicago. Terry Kath no longer, the big presence that he was in the early days. Again, he's kind of succumbing to an indulgent lifestyle at this point. Still in the band, though. Peter Cetera, who had always been there. He'd always been there, the bass player. And he had the lead vocal on 25 or 6 to 4 and some other of their prominent, better-known songs of their early era. But now they're starting to swerve to a more mellow direction. And then If You Leave Me Now in 1976 is a massive hit for them. Not just the United States, but worldwide. It's actually their first number one hit, if you can believe it or not. They had a bunch of hits before that, but they never hit number one until If You Leave Me Now, which is kind of a little syrupy ballad. But it's Cheryl texts me, listen, this is so boring.
I have to say, it is one of the most boring number one hits that I can remember. And I don't think of it as a bad song. Actually, when we initially started talking about this being the song we were going to talk about, I was like, oh, I really like that song.
Yeah, you said that initially, and we both really like Chicago. I mean,
I really like Chicago, yeah, but I do consider a difference between Chicago and Peter Cetera songs. Peter Cetera, there were multiple songwriters in this band, and over the years, like you said, Peter Cetera was one of the lead vocalists, sang on some of their biggest hits. But until If You Leave Me Now, he really hadn't brought a song to the band. There's a really great documentary on Chicago on Netflix. And the other band members, Robert Lamb.
Yep, keyboard player. Sung lead on my favorite Chicago song, Beginnings. And Saturday in the Park. That's Robert Lamb on that one.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, actually, he sang on a lot of their hits. His voice is very recognizable to me on those songs. Anyway, they're talking about how Peter Cetera was always a little bit insecure. He was the bass player in the band and had collaborated writing some songs up until now, but he hadn't really had a song that was just his that he brought to the band. He ended up bringing this song to them, and the other guys were a little bit unsure. They were like, do we really want to go in this soft, syrupy direction?
Now, they had one song previously that had impact in a ballad mode, and that was Color My World, which Terry Kath was the lead vocal on that. That was early 70s.
Yeah, yeah. So it wasn't like completely out of the realm, their style. They were definitely more, horn driven. Some, pretty rockin' guitar, a lot of keyboards, like real more R&B soul, but with a rock punch.
And they'd had a couple other mellower, like Wishing You Were Here, very mellow, but kind of a spacey kind of feel to that. It's not really a straight romantic ballad.
Yeah, it still would. Those songs still wouldn't fall under the soft rock, I don't think. But part of it, I think, is Peter Cetera's vocals too, because he sings in a much higher register.
Right. Still very soulful vocalist, but in a higher key.
Yeah. And the other thing about this song, it really wasn't a band performance. They have the horns, but they're very soft in the background. They've got the keyboards, little soft drumming going on, and an acoustic guitar. And that's it. And
acoustic 12-string.
You watch live performances of this, Peter Cetera's playing the acoustic 12-string.
Yep.
So I think that kind of made a division a bit in the band too, because they felt like, this felt more like a Peter Cetera project.
It's almost foreshadowing his solo career in the 80s and early 90s.
Yes, which were basically all ballads.
Yes.
Anyway, this song became a huge hit. And now at this point, they're like, well, this is what the people want. Now they started to get a little bit pigeonholed in that format, going in that direction. Not long after that, Terry Kath very tragically died of a self-inflicted accidental gunshot wound. He was at a place where he was already kind of not really as involved, and he did record Chicago 11 with them, but then they were definitely moving more into a different direction at that point.
Yeah. Later 70s, the hits kind of dried up for them. And then early 80s, they were kind of in the wilderness. And then they really got to a point where Peter Cetera was the focus of the band. And they hooked up with the producer, David Foster, and then had a massive comeback with the Chicago. Actually, before the Chicago 17 album, they had a big...
Chicago 16.
Chicago 16, and the big hit ballad with Hard to Say I'm Sorry, which I think was on a movie soundtrack.
And You're the Inspiration.
Yeah.
Those two songs are both on Chicago 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where they became the Peter Cetera, David Foster show.
Yes, exactly. So they had a whole new fan base almost. I don't know how many of their hardcore fans stuck with them from the CTA days through to the 16-17 era, because the music is so different. It's so, but you got to admire a band that can adapt and stay relevant over such a long period of time. You got to respect them for that, even if you don't love the late period music. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who adore those David Foster albums who don't care for the earlier Chicago, the hotter, rock and horn band sound. These guys were a hot band. I mean, they were a hell of a band.
Yes.
There's a same era, really, from when If You Leave Me Now came out. There's a clip of them live in the studio playing Feeling Stronger Every Day, which was a hit the previous
one of my
year.
favorite Chicago
Oh my God,
songs.
these guys are on fire. Absolutely on fire. And it's not just like a rock band that threw in these horns. These guys all came up together. The horns were an integral part of the group from the get-go. And these are hot players. You got a trombone. You got three horn, Lee Lofton, James Pankow. Don't remember the other guy's name. You got a killer drummer, Danny Serafin. Excellent drummer. Terry Kath, as I mentioned, right up there with the great lead players on guitar. Just a smoking guitar player. You see clips of him in their heyday, early 70s. Kath's a big dude. He looks like a football. The guitar looks like he could just crush it into splinters at any moment with his huge hands. Looks like a toy. It looks like a miniature guitar. He's just such a big guy. And he just attacks that thing. I mean, he plays with a violence, and, the low, gruff soul vocal, a very physical presence as a frontman.
Yeah.
And then,
three great vocalists in this band, too.
Yeah, love him or hate him, Peter Cetera is a great singer. I mean, you can't deny that. He's a hell of a singer. And even If You Leave Me Now, I mean, it's kind of syrupy, but ooh, no, baby, please. I mean, beautifully sung song. And, it's a great record. It's well orchestrated. And, it's not necessarily our cup of tea. It's going to be on our playlist because it's one of the biggest hits of the year. And it means a lot to a lot of people. But I mean, for us, Chicago, we like the more up-tempo, the hotter, the more rockin' stuff that they did.
But this does represent 1976 pretty well.
Yes.
Like, this was a very popular sound of that time.
Yeah.
May have been the beginning of, alienating a lot of Chicago's longtime fans. I mean, this was their 10th album. Well, actually, I think it's their 8th album, because if you count Greatest Hits and a live album, they had already had a lot a long career
Right.
at
Pretty
this point.
pretty prolific group. They were pumping out albums regularly and selling a ton of
Yeah.
albums and singles, but this was the biggest one, and certainly the most impactful worldwide for Chicago. So there you go. We are 3 songs into our 8 songs that we're going to choose for the year 1976. Cheryl has picked her album of the year. Mine is yet to come, and I haven't quite yet decided. This is such an interesting choice because right now the top 2 contenders couldn't be more different. Because you've got one of the great bands of accomplished musicians and studio perfection that released a great record this year. And then you've got the emergence of punk rock and a foundational pioneering record that's on the complete other end of the spectrum. And I'm trying to choose between those two. I haven't quite nailed it down yet. So that's yet to come. But we got a lot more to talk about in our next episode, 8. We'll continue with 1976. But until then, I'm Matt.
I'm Cheryl.
And thank you for joining us on Matt and Cheryl's Gen Excellent playlist. See you later, everybody.